Hi all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach. I'm talking to you about my peer proofreading and editing platform, reciprocity.com. So I am a research professor. I study strategy, innovation, entrepreneurship in a large research institute in Florida. And today I wanted to talk to you about the different business forms that you can create, or a couple of them sort of, in the grand scheme of things that you can create when you have a startup. There's actually a lot to choose from, particularly within the United States. There's a lot of choice. So you can choose the sort of two big things, or actually three big choices that you have to choose from. Whether your startup or your organization that you're creating, whether you want it to be not-for-profit, whether you want it to be for-profit, or whether you just want to create some sort of club or something like that, some sort of social gathering. Those three choices are really important to choose because they all have their pros and cons. So if you choose let me just start with the simplest. If you just want to choose or create an organization that's kind of like a social club, just a group and a loose formed organization, I guess you can call it. There is generally, when an organization like that, like a club, there might be some sort of goal for your organization, but it doesn't necessarily have to be goal-oriented in any sort of way. So it's actually really easy to create, and that might be something like you create a online sort of forum or something about a particular topic. You can also create, a social club where you can just go and share different ideas and share how your week was, right? So, or a book club or something like that. The second one is a not-for-profit, and that tends to be a little bit complicated. So the reasons why you want to create a not-for-profit, one of probably the largest reason, it's not what you think. The largest reason is actually just for tax purposes. You do get tax benefits, and you have to register with the United States, and you register for 501c3 if you have a registered charity. You can also there's different kinds of forms and stuff, whether you're a church, you want to register as a religious organization. The problem is you do get a lot of tax breaks, right? So the problem is, because you do get these tax breaks, you have to go through a lot of paperwork with the government to make sure that that you're complying. So there is a substantial a larger amount of paperwork that you have to do. And as a startup organization, unless you have significant revenue right from the start, it's probably not the best choice that you should use. It's going to be overly complicated, and there's going to be a lot of work involved. Unless you're bringing in substantial amounts of revenue, that you're worried about sort of the tax implications of it. The other type of organization is you could do a for-profit organization, right? So you can choose to do for-profit, even if your organization has a social goal and you think that it's going to be a not-for-profit in the long run in some sort of way. It might actually just be easier to create it kind of as a for-profit sole proprietor. Because it's just really simple to do. All you really need is a business account. You just go to a bank and you create a business account, and you can put the sole proprietorship under your name. The thing is, when you do that, then you don't have any liability protection. But if it's a sort of easy, low liability sort of area that you're working in, then you probably don't necessarily need to worry about that so much. But if you're worried about being bonded and that somebody might sue you for whatever reason, then you want to choose either a corporation or a limited liability partnership of some sort. And it just sort of depends what you choose. You can create a limited liability partnership, or you can create an LLC. And you could just be the sole partner, or the sole person that's owning it. If you're worried about liability, it's fairly cheap, and I believe it depends on the state that you're in, how much you actually pay for that. So in the state of Florida, if I recall, it's somewhere around, and don't quote me on this, because it changes on a regular basis, somewhere around $150 or so. To register every single year. It's really easy to do, to fill out, and it protects you from liability concerns, because what it does, it creates a separate entity. Some of you might have thought or heard about, corporation being its own identity, its own legal form. That's exactly what it does. So someone's under the law, and again, I'm not a legal professional in any means, but under the law, the corporation is treated as an individual, and they sue. If anybody's going to sue, they sue the corporation, and the corporation will cease to exist if it runs out of money. Rather, yourself or your home and things like that are, that are liable if you have any significant problems. The other way that you can limit your liability, even with a sole proprietorship or something that's simple, is you could just get insurance, right? So most organizations might have some sort of form of insurance that will cap the losses that you have. So basically, what insurance does is, if you have any sort of large, significant losses, you are paying so that somebody else will pay for those large, significant losses. Sort of smooth out those times when you do experience those large, significant losses. So that's that. And coming back to, sort of recommendations in terms of doing a startup, the best thing to think of when you're doing a startup is try to minimize the amount of hassles that you have, particularly, if you're a single organization, or just, one or two people that are partnering together, or a couple of people that are partnering together to create something. You're better off just trying to choose the simplest thing possible until you start getting it going, right? So if you're worried, if you're not worried about liability, and you're just kind of messing around and things like that, and you're not worried about sort of revenue production, and you're just having fun, then just by all means do a sort of create a group, an informal group, and sort of mess around for a while. If you're thinking about sort of producing revenue, then it's probably a good idea. You probably don't necessarily need to run out there right away, but if you are, if you're getting into, if you start bringing in hundreds, to thousands of dollars, then you could do a sole proprietorship. But the other way that you can do it is just make sure that you keep track of that income, and just record it on your income tax. If you don't want to do that, right, have a business account, but it actually works out to be a lot simpler. The last that you should probably sort of think about, unless you have significant liability concerns, is LLC, or something along those lines, incorporating your corporations, just because it's a little bit more work. It tends to be, it just tends to be a little bit more sort of hassle factor and stuff like that when you're a startup. But if you're worried about it, then it's a great idea to go get it. It's relatively simple, but there is more hassle to it. And and if you think about, and then the final one is, not-for-profits and things like that. So that those types of organizations, and those tend to be a lot more complicated, and you're going to be worried about, filling out the right paperwork and stuff like that. Which, in the long run, you might sort of transition to that. From sort of a sole proprietor thing, if maybe you're creating a church, for example, or a synagogue, or a mosque or whatever, but you might think about creating sort of a small informal group until you actually start collecting revenue, and you have to worry about the tax implications. So that's the thing when you're creating a startup. Just try to think about sort of the simplest route possible, minimize the amount of concerns that you have until you actually start making traction, you start actually getting things done, right? So that's the important thing. So again, check out my peer proofreading and editing platform. Hopefully you think it's really interesting. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to help out, or like this video, or like any of the videos. It definitely does help out in terms of getting the word out for this idea. So thank you, and have a good day. Bye.